Okay, we're in the studio, and today we're talking about the fifth and last love language from Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. This has been a 6-week-long series. You can check out all of the other lessons in the series. I'll put a link to that below. But Tracy, why don't you just tell us what is the 5th love language, the last one? This one's pretty exciting.
Okay, so the last one is physical touch. So it's affection, showing affection, receiving affection. That's what this person needs.
Okay, now, let's just be honest. A guy hears that. Are we talking about sex here?
Well, sex is part of that, but it's not just for sex.
Okay.
It's just holding hands, putting your arm around, rubbing a back, just touch.
Okay.
Connection through touch.
Okay. So, what about the guy who's married to a woman who has this as the love language, who just doesn't like the touchy-feely stuff, doesn't like to hold hands, he's just not that kind of a guy, right? What words of wisdom would you have for that guy?
Well, the words of wisdom I would have is you've got to find a way to be affectionate in a way that speaks love to your spouse. That's the whole point of Gary's book. So, I mean, I think there's ways to negotiate a little bit too. You know, if maybe part of the reason why you're not affectionate is in public and you feel like, you know, there's some forms of affection that's meant for the privacy in your home, well, talk about that with your spouse. But if your spouse, if your heart is to love your spouse the way they want to be loved, then you have to touch. You need to be able to hold hands. And I mean, let's be honest, for all of us, I mean, if sex is our ultimate expression of love in God's eyes, then you like touch just in the way you like touch, right?
It's true.
So I think the challenge is to learn to like the touch that maybe isn't the kind you like or doesn't always necessarily lead to the end result you're hoping, because that's what your spouse needs from you.
Now, this could just open up a whole can of worms. We'll save all the sex conversations. We'll put some links below if you want to learn more about sex and marriage and having a healthy sex life. But I guess I would just ask this question related to this and really the other 5 love languages. Can you have a love language 1 year and a couple years later it changes? I mean, this particular one makes me think of that, you know, that physical touch might be important to someone. You know, I'm thinking about the young couple, who's
affectionate all the time.
Affectionate all the time. They're newlyweds. So they say physical touch is my love language, but check in with them 10 years later, and you know, a couple kids later, and you know, not that they've lost love for each other, right? But maybe there's just, for whatever reason, that one sort of goes a little bit lower on the list.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I would probably be more comfortable saying that maybe your intensity for that love language maybe changes due to your time and season in life. But I think the love languages you have are what you have. So when it comes to affection, there's certainly seasons in life that get busier and harder for maybe so affection. There's just not as much time for that because you're focused more on other things. But I think you have to be careful about that because, again, the point of the love languages is about showing and receiving love. So I don't know that it changes with seasons of life, but it might change in order a little bit, or it might change in need.
What do you say to the husband or wife who has this as a love language but isn't receiving it from their spouse? What do you recommend that they do?
Well, this is like within any marriage situation. This is what is hard about marriage because it takes 2 to tango. So I think if I were speaking to a spouse who's married to someone that just refuses to speak their language, you know, I think then you got to take the focus to more on, let's just pray for the spouse. Let's see if we could get someone else to come into the situation, maybe another man who understands love languages and can maybe talk to the husband about, you know, pastoral presence in their life, or a mentor or someone that they respect, and just say, you know, here's how I've learned to do that with my spouse, and not to lose hope, to be patient, but yeah, that's hard because I can't force you to do something that you don't want to do. So again, I think the premise of the whole love languages piece is that it's choosing to love in a selfless, sacrificial way. So if you're a selfish person and you don't care about that, well, that's a problem. And your spouse then is a little powerless to change that, except to pray that God would change their heart and that maybe someone else could come along and kind of mentor them in that.
All right, so anyway, that is the last of the 5 love languages. And remember, if you haven't checked out the other 4, this was a 6-week series. We'll put a link to that below. And all of this is for you and your spouse or your small group or your mentor, your marriage mentor, to use these conversations to spark great conversations for you at home. And so we encourage you to use the questions below to talk about this, and join us as we talk about more topics just for couples on our channel. In fact, I encourage if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe so that you can see our newest content every week when it comes out. And if you've got some topics that you want us to cover, I encourage you to just request those topics in the YouTube comments below. See you in the next video.